The 50 Podcast.
50 Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Haley. We are back at the 50 Podcast, and today we are here with Andy Frisella. As some, if not many of you know, Andy has a podcast called Real as Fuck, Real AS Podcast. And recently, he expressed some feelings, or he said some things about female police officers that have now gone pretty viral. And as a female police officer and a female advocate for officers, if you are just tuning in now and you don't already know me, I am a boots on the ground cop. I work night shift. I've been on the road 6 years. I've done a lot in policing. I'm a mentor for women who want to be police officers. I have a mentorship program. I have a women's club of women across the country who connect with each other for as little as, hey, I'm coming to Austin. Any Blue Sisters over there? You have a hotel recommendation to, hey, I'm taking a promotional exam. Can you help me or quiz me? I have a clothing company that honors the fallen, raises money for injured or officers killed in the line of duty, as well as, again, promotes females in law enforcement. And I have this podcast. So basically, I had posted my feelings about what Andy had said, and Andy reached out to me directly today, not too long ago, which I do appreciate, and I did appreciate. But as far as like texts on a computer, I was like, me being me, and honestly, Andy will probably come to realize we're a lot more similar than you think. I'm very outspoken. I take my shots. I take my chances, just like you always talk about, like, hey, like, sleep when you're dead, like work hard and take risks, take chances. I did that with you. And I asked you to come on my podcast and you said yes. And I'm going to let you know, obviously, I really appreciate it. I think that you could go about this a million ways, but to talk to an officer, a female who, like, literally, I got home this morning at 7:30 in the morning after working all night. And I'm just a regular, female cop that can tell you how it is in this position and, kind of educate you a little bit on that. And I know that you've done a lot for officers throughout your career and with your platform. And I definitely don't want that to go by the wayside for all that you've done. And before I give you the floor, I am going to say here what was said on the podcast so that we can have some context for people who are just tuning in. So just a little trigger warning. Okay. So Andy's comment said, that's why, in my opinion, women shouldn't be in the fucking field and police officers. I just don't think they should be. Every woman cop I've ever dealt with, every single fucking one that I've ever been pulled over by, try to make me feel like a fucking, it says
emasculated.
Fucking emasculated.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it says it's taken away. I guess they can't.
Here's what I said. I didn't say what I said. I said.
Well, I'm going to finish.
Okay.
Just in case, because I'm reading it exactly from here. No, that's not a way to de-escalate a situation, especially when you know that if a person didn't have a badge or a gun, you could punch a hole through their fucking face and end their fucking life. Okay. So, I want to get into everything about you too, but we're obviously going to start with what's at hand. So I know that you made an apology before this came out and started becoming viral. You did make an apology about your actions. And I know that you have female officers as friends. Were they the ones who reached out to you originally and said, hey, like, did you realize kind of what you said, or did you realize it like right away on your own? Can you tell me what happened after you said these words?
So we have officers here that work secondary because we have, the buildings require it. And I record thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours of audio. And it's pretty much my only job. People don't know I'm not the CEO of First Form. I haven't been for 2.5 years, but my studio is here. And so I don't always, this might not make sense to someone who doesn't record like that, but I don't always remember everything that I say. It kind of comes out in flow. And so I recorded the show the way our system works is we record and then it comes out the next day. And so this podcast that aired this clip was on Thursday. And on Friday at like 5:00 in the afternoon, and by the way, I didn't remember even the topic of what we talked about. So on Friday afternoon, I was having a meeting, and one of our officers who's female, who was here, she's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, "Hey, dude, what did you mean by what you said on the show?" And I'm like, "Well, what part?" And she's like, "Well, you said this and this and this." And I'm like, "I did?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "No, I didn't." And she pulled up the video. And when I watched the video immediately, I wanted to throw up. She, we had a conversation. She was very upset, and she pointed out to me, which didn't occur to me off the bat. She's like, "Look, dude, your words hold a lot of weight with people. And, what message are you sending the young men about this comment and how they're going to treat women? I don't think you're understanding that that's going to create a situation that's harder for a female with these younger men." And the minute that clicked in my mind, I told the guys to go cut the part. And, because, dude, my podcast take 2 or 3 days to really get going. And I thought, hey, I want the least amount of people to hear this as possible. It wasn't like trying to hide. I knew that it was already out there. And so we took that out, and that was Friday. And then Saturday, I recorded our normal Q&A show, and we included a question in there from some officers who had emailed in, and they were basically asking me to clarify. And I tried to, but it didn't hit the way that I think. I didn't realize how damaging the comments were at that time. And then
I listened to that follow-up, by the way. I listened to that podcast, your first initial, kind of when you got the questions from the female officers. And I feel like, just coming from an officer, I think that you didn't realize at that point. I definitely think that you realized what you said was wrong and you were addressing it, but I don't think you realized the gravity, because you had made jokes and stuff "Oh, vote for me." And it was kind of a very lighthearted conversation. Yeah. So I think at that point you definitely realized what you said was wrong, but I don't think you realized the weight or the gravity at that point yet.
Right. And that's because the question that we got was more about can you explain what you meant? Yeah. And that's what I was trying to do. And, I didn't think because that's the normal format of our show. So I just worked it into the show. And, and then after the show, I was sitting at home, and I started thinking about the things that my friend had said. And I actually came back up here, and I called my team back up here, and I said, "Hey, I want to record an apology to these people," and which I never do. I don't know how much you guys know, but my show, we talk about things that are on the edge of controversy all the time. And I don't apologize for things because, I stand on my words, but if I'm wrong, and, I'm not too big, or I don't shy away from admitting that I'm wrong. And in this case, I was sitting at home, my stomach was just not feeling right. I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling like I guess I had this internal feeling that I needed to say more. And so I called the team up, and I made the 12-minute apology, and we posted that the same day. And that was where the apology came from. It came from, me being, educated from a couple of the female officers that we have here and locally. And look, man, I fucked up, and I don't know how to say it any more than that. It's a weird thing for, your fuck ups to be, in front of the whole entire world. And, I mean, dude, I haven't eaten in 3 days. I've sat at home just feeling like shit about this, because these are people that I truly care about. And these are people that, the body of work shows that. And disappointing you guys, it's just...
So I think the shock value with from what you said was because you do support police so much.
Yeah.
You've always been a supporter, and as a backstory for some of our listeners too, I lived in St. Louis for a long time. I went to college there, and then I stayed there for 2 years. I have a ton of friends there, connections within the police department, et cetera, et cetera. So I knew First Form like way back in the day. And I know a lot of people that use it, and that's how I ended up knowing who you were. And I do love how you're very unapologetic and you are controversial, because I feel like I'm the same way. So I understand. But I do think that the problem is that you aren't you saying like, I'm just a regular guy. I think people don't realize that anymore.
Yeah.
I think you've hit the threshold to where the words you say hold value and weight. And even in my little platform compared to yours, I've realized some of the things that like I've said and done like hold value and weight. And I don't realize that because we don't realize like the value and weight that our words hold. And you have over 3 million followers just on Instagram alone, right? And then obviously the community of St. Louis, you're probably kind of like a local celebrity, right? So when you speak, I think the reason that we were so shocked is that because you do support the police so much, and we were like, where is this coming from? It's like, I figured that you had women cop friends just because of how much you do interact with the police department. So I assumed that much. And obviously they came to you and told you like, what the hell are you talking about? So like, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone else who would say like, oh, women shouldn't be cops, we hear that all the fucking time. We get that, right? But from someone that like actively supports the police, I think it was like, wait a minute, like what's actually happening here, So I think that's where the kind of confusion comes from. And then with the violence aspect of what was said, just as a female officer talking to you, like, for instance, I'm like 5'3", 145 pounds, right? And there are times where I may approach a man of your stature and have to, elevate, my who I am as an officer in that moment, right?
I hadn't taken that into consideration after talking to a number of the women police officers, that I didn't take that into consideration that was part of the thing. I'm not a police officer. I've never been trained, but that makes a lot of sense.
Right. No. But I mean, de-escalation tactics are taught, and also some people are just better at it than others. And I definitely, as an officer, that's how I approach most, if not all things. I'll match your energy, right? If you're coming at me, I'm gonna come up with you, and we're gonna start matching energies, right? But for the most part, obviously, I don't know what you experienced, but you did say that you were kind of triggered when talking about this from a past experience. With 2 female officers that like pulled you out of the car and got you on the ground or whatever. And you were kind of piggybacking off of a recent Tyreek Hill situation. So if you don't mind, can you tell us about that instance that happened with the police that triggered you, just so we can kind of understand where you're coming from?
Do you want me to kind of walk it into how it happened during the conversation? Okay.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the Tyreek Hill situation, and we were breaking down the video. And first of all, I want to say this, when I make statements on my show, I know that the people who are listening are people like you. Okay. I know they are people that are tough. They are people who are gritty. They are people who are, otherwise you wouldn't be able to listen to the things I talk about. It's just not, so when I say things in my show, there's that context. And then there's the context of, I'm watching all these clips on the internet all day. Okay. And we're breaking them down on Cruise the Internet. So when I'm talking, I'm not necessarily, and this might not sound right to everybody, but I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking about what this is happening right here, just like I'd be talking to my buddies. And so when you watch all these videos all day, you get in that little echo chamber of, you forget that there's all these other people and there's all these other people that and they're good people and they're your friends. And I'm not even thinking about them when I'm talking. And so, there's that too. But we were talking about the Tyreek Hill situation, and we were talking about how it escalated, and you could see it escalate. And
yes, absolutely.
Did you watch the video?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he rolled the window up, we were like, fuck, dude, you shouldn't do that. Like this guy is thinking he's going to get shot. And then the video went, they got him out of the car and they used a little bit of force. And I didn't really think much of that. But the problem I had with it was when he was standing on the sidewalk and that same officer that pulled him out of the car came up and chokeholded him and put him on the ground again. And that's where we started talking about de-escalation versus escalation. And we started explaining it and talking about, the different things of that regard. And as I was talking about it, and what's weird is I never really think about this situation. But I started.
It was like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So 10 years ago, I had this, it was about 10 years ago. It could have been 8. I'm getting a little older, so I'm bad with my years, but it was a long time ago. And I was driving down the road. I had my cruise control on because I was talking to my friend from out of town, and we were wearing suits. He was a business associate. We were trying to work. I was trying to work a deal with him. So he was my guest. I got pulled over for speeding. The woman cop comes up to the window, and we got in a little bit of an argument about speeding. And she's like, "You were speeding." And I said, "No, I wasn't. I had my cruise control set." And she's like, "No, you were speeding." And it sort of escalated. And then it escalated to me getting out of the car. And then it escalated to me having to lay on the side of the highway on my belly, in front of my friend in a suit, and with these 2 women basically like freaking out on me. Okay. And that's the truth. They were yelling at me. They were treating me like shit. And it was super embarrassing. And yeah, I was not saying, I wasn't physically posing a threat, but we were arguing. It wasn't like there was words. It wasn't like threats or anything. So maybe I messed up there. But anyway, a third police officer pulled up. He rectified the situation. They apologized to me. I apologized to them. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry for my part." We all shook hands. I drove down the road, and, I was like, okay, maybe they were having a bad day, but it stuck with me. It stuck with me. The embarrassment stuck with me. It was an embarrassing event. And as I was going through this, I started to think about that. And then you guys heard what came out of my mouth. And so
you were triggered by.
Yeah, but that's no excuse. I'm not making an excuse.
No,
I'm telling you where my head was.
Right.
And then, what I meant to say was certain people shouldn't be police officers unless they have the correct ability and temperament for being a police officer. And that goes for men and women. And no police officer should have to utilize or the threat of a badge and a gun to get a situation handled. And that was the point I was trying to make. I think we can all agree that there are shitty cops, just like there are shitty people in every profession that make everybody look bad. And that's, it's frustrating for me because that's, this attitude is, the police get really upset when everybody judges them based off the actions of one police officer.
Correct.
I've, in my career, for 20 plus years, I've been, as you mentioned, thank you for mentioning that. I've been a big supporter, both financially, but more importantly, with my voice.
Yeah.
And, when we had Mike Brown here, we were vocal about that. We got a lot of problems with that. But then when George Floyd happened, I was extremely vocal against that situation for the police. And I mean, dude, I lost athletes, I lost employees, we lost sales. I mean, dude, I still hear about that. And I think, part of that, why it hurts so bad about what I did was because I do care so much about these people in this profession, what you guys do. I do value it tremendously. You guys have to get up every single day and go out there not knowing who you're going to deal with or what situation you're going to deal with. And you're going to deal with somebody who has, probably one of the worst days of their life. And you guys do that and you don't get paid right for it. It's not appropriate for what you guys do. And, these are my feelings for my whole life. And so when this happened, it's just very, very disappointed in myself. And I don't know, man, like, it's it's like saying the worst thing you ever said and not even meaning it.
Right.
Like having something come out of your mouth and then having the whole world see it. And it's like, holy shit. And,
I agree with everything you're saying, and I believe you and everything, but from my point of view, and I don't want to speak for other women, but I'm sure that they can obviously relate to what I'm going to say is that everything you said, 100%, I believe you, I agree. It's I think and like kind of we touched on briefly earlier, but it's not exactly like I totally agree with you that there's plenty of officers that shouldn't be officers. There's plenty of people that have made mistakes and get held, accountable for, like, those two female officers could be the greatest cops ever, and they may have, like you said, just had a bad day.
I'm not talking about them specifically. I'm just making the point that we have people in every profession that we know shouldn't be.
No, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But I think when you said what you said on your podcast, what happens is like the way you look and what you stand for. I know that you probably have a lot of men that follow you and like look up to you and like think that you're really cool and want to be like you. And when you say things that are violent towards women about like, the punching in the face part, that's, I think, the biggest issue for us on this end is that now men are like, well, he said it, so I can hop on the bandwagon and say like, I want to punch, females or women cops in the face. So
I didn't say I want to punch. I understand that, but I did not say I want to punch. I said you can punch. And
you can, right?
What I'm saying
of our
is,
size.
It's getting twisted into this thing where it says like I want to be violent towards women. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that someone could hurt those women.
Yes.
Very, very seriously. And I'm not saying me. I'm not saying it was I got lazy with my words.
Right.
Meaning, had I explained it the way that I explained, the way I would have explained it if I had a second chance to explain it, would have said, hey, look, there's women who are not equipped to be police. There are men who are not equipped to be a police. It's very important that our men and our women who are police officers are very well trained and capable to handle themselves. And they have to be in a position like that because without that badge and a gun, someone could legitimately kill them. And that would be the way.
That makes a lot more sense when you say it like that. That makes so much.
That's what I meant. And I fucking got lazy with my words and it came out like that.
Because a lot of us do, me included, know women who were killed in the line of duty.
Yeah.
And it is a touchy subject for us. But on the other hand, too, is like a lot of us women, believe it or not, can fight a lot better than our male counterparts.
You have to.
And we, are a lot tougher than people give us credit for.
Yeah.
But like just to speak on us is like, I guess the fear is that men will like hop on
I understand
your words and think that it's okay to talk about women that way or women police officers that way. And I do believe that you don't feel that way, and that like you were triggered because your history does show that you do support us and support the police. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on like the internet, and how like it's making you feel as far as like what's happening in real time with the backlash from what happened?
Well, it's not fun. I'm pretty used to being attacked. I say controversial things every single day. I, like most of you, I keep it real. I think probably most of you would enjoy the show if you listen to it.
Yeah, I do. I'm a listener. I do enjoy it. Yeah.
I talk about the things that randomly enough that, I'm anti-cancel culture. I talk about how messed up our society is, and people get fucking pissed about it every day. And that's not what upsets me. What upsets me is seeing people that I have dedicated a massive part of my life to, who I love and respect, hurt by something that I said that I didn't even mean, that came out completely wrong. And it just hurts to see that, man. It's disappointing. When I when I think about what you're talking about with the younger men looking at me and potentially thinking that's okay,
Right.
that makes me fucking sick. Okay, because like I take a lot of pride in trying to be a positive person. I know like the clips of you guys you see me and I'm aggressive, and that's my persona on the show and in my life. And I think anybody who knows me or knows our company, they know that I make a tremendous effort to be a positive contributor to everybody, and make them better. And sometimes, I just fucked up, man. And like, it came out wrong and I feel horrible about it. And, there's a lot of backlash and people are upset. There's a lot of people who rightfully so are upset. I don't blame them for being upset. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It does hurt. And it hurts extra bad because, that's not what my heart is. That's not where I'm at with my heart.
Mm-hmm. I know the internet can be a really cruel place.
No, I'm okay with that, but it's because of who it is. It's because it is
right. Because it does.
Yeah, I'm not
value.
Look, people talk shit on me every day. I'm used to that. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is that I've spent so long trying to support and be a part of this community and be a positive influence in this community, and that seeing them so upset, right. It hurts, dude. And it's not cool. And it's one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and everybody got to witness it. And I'm trying to do the right thing and make it right and explain myself and apologize and understand that I understand how hurtful the things that I said could be. Mm-hmm. I just hope that people understand that's not what I meant to say, and it doesn't represent my body of work or what I'm going to do moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I'm not going to change anything that I'm doing. I'm going to continue to support first responders, police. Those are especially the police. Any way that I can. And that's not something that is going to change on my end. Quite honestly, I understand why everybody's upset. I do. But I would appreciate if someone, or if people would at least take a minute to maybe hear my apology on my podcast, and then maybe, understand that like my track record is not that. It's,
right.
We all say things that are fucked up, and we all say things we wish we could put right back in our mouth. And this was probably the worst example of that in my entire life. And, I know I've seen the comments. A lot of people say I'm only apologizing because I'm afraid for my business. Dude, I'm not even the CEO here anymore. Like I'm doing other things. Our businesses, you know, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but they're out there,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, I don't want to hurt the people in this building by making some slight, stupid ass comments that I don't even mean. But at the end of the day, you know, that's not what this is about. It's really about me just letting you guys know that I still very much so support you, and I've always supported. And whether you want to support me or not is really irrelevant. I'm still going to do that, and I want you guys to know that, you know, like this is one of the worst moments of my life. Like real talk, dude. I haven't eaten in 3 fucking days. I haven't slept. My anxiety's through the roof. You know, everybody's, you know, and normally I wouldn't care. Like I get canceled literally every week.
Right.
Something new, but this is like the best feeling I can describe it as is like when you disappoint someone that like you really respect,
right.
like maybe your grandpa or your dad or something. It's like that. And, the fact that what I said would create a more dangerous situation makes me sick. That was why I came out on the show and said, I don't know if you heard what I said, but I said to the guys, I said, hey, that's a fucking terrible example.
Yes, I did.
And
that's what scared. I do believe that that's the part that holds the most weight in what was said. Have you been able to speak to the St. Louis police chief at all after he came out with those statements?
No. I know the chief, and I knew that he was probably going to have to do that. I don't hold any hard feelings for what they did. I understand. You know, it's sad. It makes me sad. But I'm going to work every single day as much as I can to try and repair that so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
And if that means I have to sit down with every single officer and have a personal conversation, that's what I'll do. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I got to do. And, it's important to me. So, you know, I'm going to continue to work to rebuild that trust and that respect. And, you know, whether people come around or they don't, I'm going to continue to do what I've always done.
Yeah. So. And in the past, we've talked about it, but can you tell us what you've done for the police departments, like in the past?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
I mean,
telling us the support you've given in the past?
The last time I tried to do that, everybody said I was just bragging, and you know, I hesitate to say all of it because there's way more than people realize. You know, we're the biggest donor of backstoppers in the history of St. Louis. We do Memorial 5Ks, we do Blake Schneider 5K. We donate well in excess of 6 figures every single year. We have multiple 7-figure donations. You know, that's the monetary stuff that we've done. But the other things that we do all the time are things like, you know, like family support, you know, like gift baskets for their families when they do their school things, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, where you guys are like, hey, we got this raffle or we got this, we've been doing that for years. And then, you know, I think the big thing though, aside from that stuff, right? Cause like, there's more about than just like what you give. I think the more important thing about what you give is where you stand. And, you know, in the most difficult times, we're here in St. Louis, you know, this is where Mike Brown happened. When Mike Brown happened and everybody was hating the cops, we were there with them. We were bringing them waters and we were bringing them snacks and we were bringing a truck up there every 6 hours to make sure that they were fed and had drinks. You know, when George Floyd happened, it was the same thing, you know, and then on top of that, that's when cancel culture was at its height. I don't think the cancel culture has ever been higher than what it was with the Black Square. And we were standing up for the police and, you know, fuck, dude, I mean, like I said, dude, we lost customers, I lost athletes, I lost employees, you know, all because I was standing up for the police. And it would have been, if I'm being honest, it would have been a lot easier not to say shit.
Right.
But that's not who I am. It's not who I am. It's just not who I am. You know, I think and I don't know how people feel about the vaccine, but when the vaccine was getting mandated and everybody had to take it or they wanted to fire people, I was standing up for that. I got in deep shit for that with the government. So, all these kind of things.
It's important to share your history.
Yeah.
It doesn't completely obviously cancel what was said, but I do
That's
think
not why.
that, like, if no, and that was not your intention. I asked you the question, but I do think it's important to show that, like, your history has been supportive.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, we were so like, what the hell, like, what is he saying? Like, I thought he was like our guy,
I am, and I still will be. I still will.
Yeah.
I
think it's just important, and I know you already know it, but as females on the road, as officers, we do struggle. When we get promoted, we're told it's because of our looks, or who we have to be sleeping with someone, or on the road, like, I'm not going to take you seriously as a backup because you're a female, or you can't be in this unit, or we're only using you in this unit because you're a female and we need a undercover prostitute, and that's the only reason you made it to Vice, or whatever. We're constantly having to prove ourselves in this field, in this career field. We're constantly underestimated, and we're constantly having to put ourselves out there for criticism, because there's still so many men to this day that believe that there is not a place for us here. So I just hope that you do believe that there is a place for us. And from your words that you've been saying, I do believe that you are sorry, and that you do believe that there's a place. I just want you to know that, like, there is so many struggles as a female, but every single day, and you mentioned this, no matter what happens, we go to the next call. We go to work the next day. We leave our children, at home. We work overnights. We bust our ass for not that much money, and we do it because we love to help people. And women, our role in this career is so important. We can do anything that a man can do, but most importantly, we bring a lot of other tools to the table on this job, and typically a lot of it is de-escalation tactics, which is why I'm surprised that you had the experience that you did, but that's okay, because we all have different experiences, and and
what I said,
that's totally fair.
What I said was, but I said in the quote, I said that every single thing that every single interaction I've ever had with a female was, and that wasn't true. That was me heated up.
Right.
That's not true. I've been treated very well by a lot of females. In fact, well,
that's good to hear.
I don't know if people know, but I got stabbed when I was 23, and I had 160 stitches in my face. And one of the cops that showed up, it was two of my friends, and one was a female, and she pretty much saved my life. But I didn't think about that when I was talking about that. And so the last few days, I've had all these time to think about. I'm like, honestly, the more time that goes by, the worse I feel about what I fucking said. And the fact that it's not something I even meant from my heart, it's like, how do you fucking fix that? And it's just more and more and more shame. And I don't know how another word to say it, but it's just, I feel very embarrassed and very, very low and very shameful. And, like, I had a hard weekend. I spoke to you about that. It wasn't an easy weekend. I'm very hard on myself. I hold high standards for myself. And when I mess up like this, it really, really, really hurts. And I just want you guys to know, all of you, that I know I fucked up. And I want you to know that, I don't mean what I said at all. If I had, like I explained it to you, that's what I meant to say. And it just came out wrong, and it came out wrong in front of the whole fucking world. And, I'm really, 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 really fucking sorry for how this, all came about. And, it's not how I feel. It's not who I am. And I know there's going to be people that see this and they're going to say, oh, he's just saying that because of this. That's not true. 20 years of backing the police the way that we backed it. That's the real shit. And who I was on Wednesday is who I am today. And I'll earn the respect back over time. If that's what it's going to take, that's what it takes, because who I was before that comment is still who I am now. And, I know that in my heart, and I know that people have no way of knowing that. They see this persona of me on the internet and they think that that's who I am. They think I'm this, egotistical loudmouth, and honestly, there's probably some truth to that. I do have a big mouth, and yes, I do have an ego. But I also know that when I'm wrong and when I hurt people, that, the real man thing to do is to own it and say you're fucking sorry and try to make it right. Yeah. And, I know that there's going to be people that hear my words and that's, not going to be enough. I understand that. But all I ask is that, you watch me and pay attention to what we do and what I do and what I say. It's really important to me that I fix the example that we continue to talk about, that maybe other men, that's a priority for me to talk about consistently from now on.
Yeah, we would appreciate that. That's a great.
Not just as like, oh, I'm going to talk about this once. This is something that, because like you said, man, I still think of myself. I still think of myself as some regular dude, and I think, I only go home and here. I don't go out and party. I don't travel. So I'm sort of I'm in this little like echo chamber. Yeah. I don't know. This is going to sound weird, but I don't know what people think of me out there other than what I see on the internet. And, when I go out in public and people recognize me, it still like shocks me, even though it's been happening for a long, long time. I don't think of myself like that. And because I don't, I think that's part of the appeal of my show and what I do. But because I don't think that, sometimes I lose sight that my words carry so much weight, especially with the younger people.
100%.
And that's something that over the weekend, I really, really, really thought about. And there's been some things that I've been looking to change about myself, and how I deliver things and how I articulate things. And these were things I was thinking about before this happened. And I'm taking this as a sign of that was the right thought and that was the right direction that I need to go. And that direction was, people are going to laugh, but it was to curse less and it was to be more articulate with my opinions. Because contrary to what the internet might think, I'm not a total dumbass. I do have a vocabulary and I can explain things when I'm not being lazy. And what you guys caught was a lazy moment of tongue. And I'm going to be better about that and make those changes, because in this country, I recognize that our culture problem that we have is based around poor leadership from adults to children. And I don't have any children of my own, but that's why I try to be a leader the best that I can to these younger people. And so I'm going to make a much bigger focus on content that is directed right at those young men who might look at me and say, hey, I want to be more like that.
Yes. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I do too. And, I talk about this a lot. I talk about setting the right example and personal excellence being the ultimate rebellion and how we handle ourselves. And, we all complain about society without realizing that we are society. Right. Our example matters. And, I just realized like I can do a better job than what I've been doing. And it wasn't something that happened just because of this, but this caused me to think about it more and realize that I do have like, how like when we grow up, right? Like I think a lot of people will relate to this. Like I still feel like I'm 20 years old. Like even though I have all this.
I'm 21.
I look in the mirror, I have all this gray and I'm like, I'm 45 And I look in the mirror and I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at, dude? Because on the inside, I still feel 20 to 25 years old. And so like thinking that I'm the leader now or that I'm the adult now is like a kind of a weird thing, even though I know I am. And I think maybe I'm a little bit delayed on that because I don't have children. But I've started to realize, like, hey, I've watched my brother go through this with his kids where he's matured a lot as a leader. And because he realizes his kids are watching him. And
Right.
I went through that because we never had kids, but I think I'm learning it a little bit late that, I need to do a better job of that part of it, being a little bit smarter with my mouth, I think my actions have always represented good leadership. But, with my mouth and with that microphone, the microphone's the most powerful weapon in the earth.
Yeah, it is.
And,
Absolutely.
and I'm fortunate enough to have a big one. And, it's important that I take that responsibility a little more seriously. We try to have fun. We try to joke. We try to talk about things. We try to beat down barriers by using humor. But there's still a time for those serious conversations. Hey, guys, look, this is how you should be doing this. You don't want to be doing this stuff like this. When we're breaking down a clip on the show, that would be a good time for me to talk to the young men and say, hey, just so you know, guys, this is not cool,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
So those are things that, go ahead.
No, I totally agree because like from our point of view, like, saying women shouldn't be cops. And I know your intention behind it, but like you said, you get canceled all the time. Like we hear that all the time. That's nothing.
Yeah.
But for you to set a better example for men to, respect women and respect officers and men and women, I think you have a great platform. You have a big platform. And I think that you really do have the opportunity to like make things better and actually make, a big impact. And like, obviously right now it's at a low point, but like you even talking to me, I'm a nobody to you. But I'm just a boots on the ground cop that speaks my mind just like you. And I think that you coming here talking to me is like you talking to other women on the road. Yeah. And I think that is like the most important is just talking to just us women who go to work, regular girls, and I think that like as long as you continue to do that, maybe even, I don't know if you could do a ride along in St. Louis or something, just like see.
I got a lot of invites about that.
And I think just going on a ride along or listening to women's stories, just about policing is important to educate yourself. And I appreciate that you're doing that and you're taking the steps to do that. And, this morning I woke up hating you. Yeah. I did. Yeah. And I made that video and that's how we connected. And, I can say that I do forgive you and I forgive what you said. I believe you. I believe that you misspoke. I think everyone deserves second chances. I think that you're apologizing from the heart. I can read people like a book. That's why I love being a police officer because I'm good at it. And I truly believe you. I think there's going to be women that watch this and say, I can't believe you forgave him or believed him or whatever. And I, just like you, willing to stand on what I believe in and put myself out there and saying that like, I appreciate you talking to me and I appreciate you putting yourself out there as a man, because also what I talk a lot about in my podcast and in general is like mental health issues are such a huge thing these days. And men are so afraid, especially in law enforcement and in policing, to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there, to say they're struggling, to cry or whatever. And also, like you said, you want to be a better example. Like you right now, putting yourself out there, saying sorry, being vulnerable is setting an example because men's mental health is so important. So I appreciate you doing all of this.
Yeah, Haley, look, I appreciate all of that. And, I know I disappointed you and I know I disappointed a lot of people. That's not who I am. It's not what I believe. And, to the people who are going to be upset with you for saying that, I'm going to prove you right. Just so you know.
I hope so. Yeah. I do. I really do.
And what I'd also like to do, I think would be cool, is if you would come up and be on my show. I would love to have you come be on my show to talk about these things, and kind of let people know, because obviously I'm not a woman and I'm also not a police officer. Okay.
Right.
So I don't understand, like when you're talking, like I understand after you explain it to me, but it doesn't come to the front of my mind when I think about things and think like, fuck, these women they got to compete at a physical job. They got to go out and like, they got to deal with the boys club of saying, oh, you're not good enough. The shit I said, which I
every day
mean, but like, I hadn't thought about that shit. You know what I mean? Cause I'm a man and, we
are severely underestimated on a day-to-day basis. And I on my podcast, a lot of, not all, but a lot of people I have on are very like high up women in the field, and talking about how they got there and all the struggles that they face getting there. And it's just the truth. The men don't face the same struggles as we do, getting to the top. And it's just the truth. But also just like speaking, like I said, just like as a regular beat cop, like it's really important for me to share stories with you and for you to understand like the stuff that like we do go through every day. Like, would you want to come do that? I would love to. I would love to come to my old stomping grounds. Okay. We'll arrange that offline. But the guy, I will say this, most of the men I've heard from are very supportive of your guys' feelings as well. I feel like the culture is getting much better. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like from what I've heard in feedback, because I didn't get like so attacked, but I got talked to, where, a lot of my friends got a lot of guy friends who are police officers. And they're like, I've been having conversations nonstop all weekend. And they're like, hey, look, dude, they have to do this. 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 And you're making your opinion based upon one or two experiences. And I'm going to tell you, I do this every day and they're badass. And so like, I've had a lot of those conversations, from really, really, really good friends of mine. I'm glad. I've learned a lot, man, but I wanted to say that because I want you guys to know that there's a lot of men out there that do recognize what you guys do and go to bat for you. There's men that only want female partners because of the what we bring to the table. Like every officer is a tool. Like you don't always have to be the hammer to be a successful officer. You can be the screwdriver. You can be the person that puts things back together. Yeah. And like we're just another important tool to utilize. Yeah. And we have a place, here. We definitely do. Well, I just want to say, to anybody listening, I love you guys. I know you're mad at me, and I know you probably have some hate for me or whatever right now. But that comment isn't who I am. It's not what I meant. What I meant was how I described it earlier in the show. And I said something that I didn't regret, and the whole world happened to hear it. And I'm going to dedicate, the same time and the same commitment that I've always had moving forward, regardless if, people are mad at me or not, because it's something that I believe in. And I hope that over time, maybe you guys could have some grace, and understand that, I'm not perfect. I've got in fact, I am very far from perfect, very far. I have issues that I deal with just like you guys. I have pressures that I deal with just like you guys. I have mental health, that quite honestly is all over the place depending on what day it is. And, I'm just out here trying to do it just like you guys are doing it. And I know people think, oh, he's this big entrepreneur. No, dude, I'm just a dude who has stuck with something for 25 years. If I was a great entrepreneur, I would have done this in 5 years. I'm actually pretty regular, and I just have this ability to not quit, and I'm thankful for it. But there's nothing special about me. I
I fuck up all the time, just like everybody else. And I hope that you guys will come to recognize that that's what that was. And it wasn't my true feelings.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I really do.
I'm very, very embarrassed and very, very, very sorry. I know.
And
I've heard from
we
people,
all say things we don't mean, and we all make mistakes, but as long as you move forward doing what you're doing right here, I think that you'll be okay.
Well, I've heard from people who lost their moms who were cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My best friend.
I wasn't thinking of those. I wasn't thinking of that when I said those things. I wasn't thinking of anything other than that one thing that was in my brain at the time. And I'm just sorry, man. I want you guys to know that it's not, I fucked up. Yeah. So I still love all of you guys, and I still love the police, men and women. And,
we hope to see you continue these efforts and continue being this side of you. I know that you, have said you have the following that you have because you're so you have that persona, but this persona isn't a bad one either.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's important to show all sides. And it's important to be a man who apologizes and takes accountability for their actions, because that's another side that people need to see.
Yeah, I think we do need more of that in the world. Yeah. We need more people who are and this comes from the top down leadership of this country. We need people to say, "Hey, I fucked up, man. I apologize. Let me do this right." And that's all I'm trying to do, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on here, and I look forward to see you continue to do the work to make things right. And I appreciate that you're willing to do so. So
thank you, Haley.
You have my forgiveness.
Thank you. That means the world. And I'll prove you right. I won't disappoint you. Yeah.
I hope so.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity and having me on, and thank you for taking my call when I asked you to call me. That was a very helpful phone call for me. I just really appreciate it. I want you to know that.
Trust me, we've all been at low points, especially me. And I'm always open for someone to listen. A redemption story is the best story. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.